and then he steps into the room to the path that he wants to follow. Remember, the number one man is never wrong. We already covered that, but that's important. When he steps center, this is the tactic. We used to go in and flood the room. There's a couple controversial discussions about tactics and why we did that. One is maybe if we clear into our point of dominations and pour into it, it distracts the person from killing the hostage. And then the center guys clean up the center as a tactic. We've gotten away from that because when you're fighting bad guys who have tactics that blow themselves up or barricade themselves in the back of rooms, you have to be able to get that snapshot. I don't think there's really any consideration besides Haas's rescue and moving to a crisis point, meaning an active shooting scenario, where I would potentially jump into that room for a thug, a criminal. Unless it was a rescue of someone I love, I'm going to step center, get a snapshot, and then if I need to stop or lull the stack from going in, overcommitting to the room, we could do it there. Remember, you're also stepping center to get situational awareness of what's going on to dictate your actions prior to entering the room. Because if you step center and maybe there's maybe even a feeling, or you hear a noise, or you see a shadow and it moves to the left and you were going to go right, well, at that point, you could make a decision at that go, no-go criteria. So the idea is I'm here providing cross coverage, and Kevin's going to step nice and wide, which is a decision point. So he's here, right? He gets that snapshot, takes in the information, and then he commits to his point of domination. I pick it up, and I'm covering him by being mutually supporting. If he goes right, I go left. If he goes left, I go right. And I'm just simply supporting my number one man because he sees things that I can't see. So we just covered stepping center, but also covering the angles. On our approach, one thing you notice, you probably reference in the back of your head, and you tactical gurus probably thought about this. Why would he push across an open door? Well, because he has the barrel in line with his eyes. If he identifies a threat, he can engage that threat. It's better to provide cross coverage where we get all the angles and see 90% of the room before we enter, leaving 5% in this point of domination, and if this was center fed, 5% in this point of domination. Moving on.
Hey guys, the next principle we're going to talk about is tactical withdrawal or covered withdrawal. So in a scenario, you've extracted somebody from a bad situation, you're pulling out, but you never want to turn your back on the threat. You always want to keep a gun pointed at the threat. So an example would be police officer's hit, you go up, you medically treat him, and you've got two guns in the fight, you're pulling him back, one gun is always pointed at the bad guy. Now, as you move, you need to be smart, so you position yourself in a way that your partner doesn't have to cross in front of your line of fire and block your shot. So you need to be smart about that. And if he has to run in front of your gun, that's kind of your fault and not his, because you left him nowhere else to go. So it's a thinking man's game. So a very applicable principle, and we're going to demo it here in a second.
Yeah, the two-man is the added element of the support by fire position. That's essentially a break in contact, escape and evade while maintaining security. You can't give up security. You just can't give it up. It's the number one principle of patrolling and a tactic we live by. So if I'm retreating, meaning, defensive tactic maneuvering, I'm still offensively in the game. That means I'm barrel oriented towards a threat, and we routinely do this in different drills in combat operations for specific reasons. This is applicable to everybody, civilians, military, and law enforcement.
Turn and move.
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 Hey guys, so what we just did was we came into an open room. That big, open, large space that we came into is indicative of buildings, industrial, the list goes on. What I want to ensure that I drive home is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I've actually heard people say, that doesn't mean anything, that doesn't, whatever. Cognitively, if you understand what that means, it means if you deliberately slow yourself down and you say that to yourself, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, because I've done it over a decade of special operations and target sets and everything else. Because the pace in which we go when we're activated by our sympathetic nervous system with a little bit of adrenaline, maybe a little bit of cortisol, these different stress hormones, we think we're going slow, but we're actually going fast. I'll give a plug to some of my SIF buddies. I actually had a SIF assaulter buddy named Tommy who taught me, if you can't do CQB smoking a cigarette, you're going too fast. And he literally would do it. He would put a cigarette in his mouth, he'd walk around the shoot house, and he would walk super slow, smoking the cigarette, gunning down targets. And I was like, I don't get it. But now it makes sense because he was able to slow himself down even though he was going actually fast. Because the more efficient you are in your movement, through rehearsal, through practice, the better you become. So we might perceive ourselves as going slow, but we're actually going really fast. So we need to slow ourselves down. Saying that slow is smooth, smooth is fast, will also lend itself to predictability. Remember, as a number one man, you want to be a good number one man. You're not a good number one man if you're a jackrabbit. If I'm